Muy buenos dias, everyone. I hope everybody's doing well, blessed, and enjoying family. As always, muchas gracias to everyone for everyone's words, wishes, prayers, and the love and support you guys share with me. From the heart, I appreciate every one of you. Also, do please like, share, and subscribe, and hype the video to help the message get out. Thank you. Well, everyone, before I get back in or get into the video, excuse me, I just want to inform everybody, I'm back in Culiacan at the ranch. Thank you, God. Thank you, everyone, for the prayers that knew I was on my way. Hope the others understand, due to situations, I just couldn't really be open with it, right? Nevertheless, God's amazing and I'm back where it's comfortable, right? Anyways, today I want to touch on three camaradas, mainly one, right? Which is the homie Chato from Clanton 14. And it just goes to something I was conversing with someone about, which is, we're in prison, we do our time, we're doing our thing. And for some reason, we tend to lose sight that life keeps going, right? We're stuck in a little world and lose touch with the world is doing its thing on the outside, right? And things just ain't the same as when we get locked up. And that includes neighborhoods, styles, way of thinking, right? Anyways, I surely was guilty of this, not once, but numerous of times, right? Trying to reach out, if that makes sense. But I want to take you back to Corcoran Shoe, right? Uh, B yard, the validated yard. There was a homie, like I mentioned, Chato from Clanton. He was a good homie. He was young. He got validated because he was just moving fast. He wanted to be under somebody. Mm. Most importantly, is to reach out as much possible with his name, right? Which, in a lot of sense, it ain't good inside. There's a difference getting to a spot, making your presence known, offering your service as a campolero, and then to being that one always wanting your name in the mix. Well, at least at this time, there was politics on politics against us, because that's who we politic on. And more importantly, Peelies stepping on each other, wanting to reach. It wasn't what you see today, where they're on the main line, they could get on the cuerno and actually clear things up. There was a lot of misunderstandings. Nevertheless, without losing sight of what I want to speak on, here, just in 4 block, right, there was two other camaradas assisting, per se, and that was Cisco from Longo and Smokey from Longo. These two camaradas, they were violated for a couple of years already. They were more of age than Chato was. Chato, maybe a year was back there, right? And it was due to we'll just say, when they were giving them points for just letter writing, name writing, whatever. Anyways, he was gonna go home. So, a lot of camaradas think, and this includes myself, right, that we need to leave. And by the way, leaving in good standings is leaving with promises, right? Especially if we're shoe living and we're walking amongst the correct people, per se. You know, we want to get out and we want our name to keep circulating. Like in my case, I do almost 24 years and was going to get out just to, you know, get lost in what counts really live, right? Which is what I should have done sincerely, right? Went in, did my thing, get out and buck up and do my thing for my family or for whatever little I had left out there, right? Out here, excuse me. And nevertheless, it just happened to be where, at the moment, there was a couple peelies and I knew what he had going with Artie, He had came up with a plan with the homies from Longo that there wasn't nobody out there really in the west side of Longo uh, implementing things or collecting or just reaching the immense reach, right? In the form of taxations, whatever. You guys get what I'm trying to say. So of course, Artie's when he's trying to pick on everything, right? And there was already occurring dislike for Artie, where there was a push from the Bay, right? But again, Artie was so had his feet well planted that it really didn't mind him, It didn't bother him. So Chato got out. He got out and within, I don't know, a month, 2 months, in that period, right? The other two camaradas got out there to Long Beach with him and they tried to press. They tried to press in the sense that paisanos, homies, whatever you were selling on the streets, you basically had to pay rent. And of course, when people are doing this, their thing for a while is it's like you tell them this and they're gonna put up a fight. More so, it happens a lot more with paisanos, to be sincere. And well, there was this paisan that, in a sense, he wasn't putting a fight, right? When we got down Mapil, it stated that he was willing to work with them, giving them a cut for that. But if Artie would implement his familia's work, right, on the streets of Long Beach, or at least in Westside Long Beach, right, where we're speaking on, the problem lied in the younger homies didn't want no part of it. It's an individual from a whole different area, from West LA, from the barrio Clanton, excuse me, going into your neighborhood, West Side Longo, and telling you how you're gonna run your neighborhood, who you're gonna pay to, who's gonna dictate the orders for you. Keep in mind, you're on the streets, you're youngsters, All you know is that word, right? A carnal, an M member. But in reality, you have never heard of this man. But at the same time, they're trying to obligate you to pay him rent, to do his bidding, and there for you not to have any buts. You know, again, I side of this, as I will touch on with Artie and some younger homies from my neighborhood. And the reality is, the younger generation, they're more rebels. You know, they have a way of thought, and they basically, it's their way, which, there was a couple times I had conversations with, well, one time I'll say with the Pili, right? And he himself told me, that if our generation is the 90s, the 90 generation would have been in this way of thought, they would have never been able to get in the neighborhoods the way they are now. And if you think about it, it makes sense, Nevertheless, like I mentioned, it was a time of chaos. A lot of police don't speak on it, but they were at each other's throats. Again, they're sitting in their cell in the shoe, right? Indeterminate, validated. So they're playing their chess game. Just like they told Artie, there's nobody here. For example, they had already told Rolo, there's nobody here. And Rolo sent the crew. And that's where the problems lie. Where the bigger problem lies is a camarada misleading how things run in prison to how at this time they run on the streets. You see, in prison, we leave our neighborhood in the door. And I don't say that in any way, shape, or form as a bad thing, right? We unite under one umbrella. No neighborhoods, no cliques, and but it's not like that on the streets. You see, I could have palabra and get to a prison, a yard, and it don't matter what camaradas are on that yard. After everything gets verified and cleared, nobody could question it. That's not the thing on the streets. You go in and say, but at the same time, the camaradas have never done no time could say F that. For example, this is West Side Longo. You're in the wrong place. And I understand the way of thinking, of doing time for so long. Of course, you tend to log on to what you surround yourself with for so long, right? In the sense of wiggling rules, regulations, and reactions per se. Nevertheless, Rolo already had something going in corporate. For those that don't know, against Artie, a lot of misunderstandings, just to touch in just real fast, in Chino, there was two homies, Boxer, as I spoken about him, from 18, and the homie Shadow from 18, both from West Side 18. They were on their Artie. They just happened to land in Chino. in Palm Hole, and Rolo had some people there. He wanted to send a message to Artie and had him wet. You know, it had to do mainly with them stepping over Rolo's control or reach out there, right? And again, they were having that misunderstandings way before, and Rolo started pressing on Chato. First and foremost, his right hand man out there in Long Beach was for Long Beach. The vato that had Palabra out there, even though Smokey and Cisco were assisting them that were from Long Beach, but they were from the other side of Long Beach, from the east side. That's where a lot of vatos got to be careful too. Certain individuals guide you to their enemies to prove a point. I don't know if I'm making sense. You see, Cisco and Smokey go to tell him, hey, let's try to work something out here in the east side where they got little homies, where they got homies. No, they threw west side longo, right? Because they're going to be assisting. So what's a better way to hit someone about upside the head than them being your enemies and you going in there and basically telling them what they're going to do, how to do it. It's a political move. And in the mid, Sato got caught in between. Again, the homie was young, trying to reach too much. Instead of picking up Klecha, he was trying to spread his name. And again, I could relate with that, right? To not get too much into the story, T from Kuka wanted a piece of that action too in Long Beach. He felt he was more entitled because he already had a lot of people working for him in Torrance. And he basically sidelined it with Rolu. You could say is when the beginning of the kicking Artie to the side, right, started. And eventually they would use what shouldn't be used against Chato, which was you reaching outside your boundaries. Keep in mind, up in this point, I had never heard nobody get put on the hat for this. At the end of the day, a Pili sending you, don't matter where he sends you, you're representing the Pili. But they felt they had more rights to that spot than Chato. Because what I just said about people using you to politic against enemies, well, that's what Smokey and Cisco did. They backtracked into their side of the neighborhood and let Chato hit the fence on his own. At the end of the day, he didn't have no foundation, according to Rolo and T, to be out there. Cause he was holding his ground. You guys could read between that how it was going down. But they felt he was more suitable to be in West LA fighting for Artie or over there in Artie's turf than in the harbor area. And it's just that simple. He didn't want to stand down because he felt he was doing right, which in a sense, he was. There was nothing wrong with what he was doing. The wrong was power hungry Artie and his carnales already pushing on him to start having him removed. You're representing him as a camarada. You're gone. You see, there's a funny saying when you're busted. Even though you represent a Pili, for some reason they would never allow you to say, oh, this is my Pili, because that's a rope around their neck. But at the same time, if you're doing something for a Pili and you start doing something for another, that Pili's gonna have your neck. So tell me, how can an individual do right in a political game if there's 150 members, there's 150 different rules and regulations, guidelines to follow? Chato would end up getting clipped, dome on the street of Longo. Why? Because he was representing an individual that started seeing the writing on the fence. At this time, right before I left to the bay, is when he started pulling out from camaradas. What I mean is, he sent camaradas to do something, he would get caught for it, he would deny that camarada. That fool was using my name in vain. It didn't matter if he washed them up or what happened to them. It's kind of what led to his downfall too, right? Besides that taxing, that power hunger, all that extra. But it's just how it goes. What's good on the inside is not always good on the outside. You see, there's a lot of neighborhoods that are fed up. They will never say nothing on the inside, but believe me, there's ways to do things on the outside. And it's understandable. But I would love to hear your thoughts. It's a shame the homie wanted to do things right and he got caught in an enemy political move, as many do. But please leave your comments down below. I have a phone now, so believe me, I'll be more in touch with the comments. I'm just back trying to settle in. Do excuse me for the live yesterday. Please continue to have a great day today. Stay true to yourself and loyal to loved ones. This is what we started. We always